There, right? From 10 by 100 is including 10 by 40. But if the person has to mobilize also, right? Whatever.
Okay, I'm opening in the mobile. Okay. All right. So can you see this, students? Can you see my PowerPoint? Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I will proceed with mobile today. So okay. So good afternoon, everyone. I hope this meeting is recording. Okay. So the subject is medical mycology and virology, and the subject code is BMLT 5001. And currently we are discussing the mycology. So in the second unit we have different types of fungal diseases, right? So I'm directly skipping. So in the last lecture we are discussing about opportunistic pathogens, opportunistic mycosis. That means these are the fungal infections which will cause infection only when the immune system drops, when the host immune system compromised. Only in that condition we will get this opportunistic fungal infections. So they are trying to seek the opportunity. So whenever they are getting opportunity to get infection, to make the infection, then they will cause infection in the host. Okay, whenever there is weakened immune system. So let me scroll it. Yeah, so we have three important opportunistic fungi. We have mucormycosis, candidiasis, and aspergillosis. So mucormycosis recently we already saw. So this became a prevalent infection among the COVID-19 patients during pandemic, which is due to administration of steroids to the patients. Due to this steroid intake, patient's immune system has been weakened, and this mucor species has taken an advantage. They took an opportunity to infect the patient. And mucormycosis, candida, and aspergillus are common flora to humans. That means these fungi is already present on our skin, but whenever our immune system weakens, then only it will cause infection. So first one, so these are the types of mucormycosis. So opportunistic fungi. So among these opportunistic fungi, mucormycosis belongs to the genus Zygomycota. So that is why mucormycosis is also called as zygomycosis. Okay, so these are the classical pictures of mucormycosis. Here you can see development of black colored fungus on the mucous membranes of the patient. So that is why this is also called as a black fungus. Okay, so it is also commonly called as a black fungi, or it is mucormycosis. So there are multiple species of mucor fungi. So the species include Mucorrhizophus and Lecithemia. So these are the three species present in this mucormycosis or zygomycotic fungi. So three of them varies only in their morphology, but their infection remains same. So this is how the mucor looks like, and this is how the rhizophus looks like, and this is the Lecithemia. So the major difference between these three species is the arrangement of rhizoids on the base of the hyphae. So in case of mucor, there are no rhizoids, whereas in rhizophus, rhizoids present just below the sporangiospores, whereas in Lecithemia, the rhizoids present in between the sporangiospores. So this is how you can able to identify the difference between the three species. Whereas mucor and rhizophus will cause octomycosis. That means rhizophus will cause ear infection, whereas mucor and Lecithemia can cause this rhinocerebral infection. That means face infection. Okay. Other than these two, they can also cause lung infection and gastrointestinal infection. So these are the infections caused by the Mucormycosis family or fungi. Then lab diagnosis. The specimens can be collected from the lesions, pus, sputum, or nasal discharge. Then on direct microscopy, you can able to identify non-septate hyphal strands. And on histological sections or H&E staining, the complete morphology will be seen. Complete morphology can be seen with the help of LPCB mount. Upon culturing the fungi, after doing LPCB mount, you can able to see the complete morphology of this mucor species. So this is all about the mucormycosis. Okay. Then the second opportunistic fungi is the Candida. So Candida infection or Candida is the second opportunistic pathogen. So I will discuss these things. So yesterday we already saw introduction, morphology, and species of Candida. So I will try to cover introduction, morphology, species, pathogenesis, clinical symptoms, lab diagnosis, and treatment of Candida. Whereas in the lab diagnosis, these 6 tests we will do specifically. We will focus on direct microscopic culture, specific Candida identification tests, serological tests, antigen detection test, and skin test. So the specific Candida identifying tests include germ tube test, chlamydia, presence or absence of chlamydia spores, and carbohydrate fermentation test. So we will see all these things in the Candida. Okay. So are you following me, students? Can you see the PowerPoint?
Yes, sir.
Fine. So Candida. So Candida, the major fungi that is responsible for Candida infection is Candida albicans. So almost 80 to 90 cases of Candida infection is occurred by this Candida albicans. Okay. So this is a skin mucosal membrane infection. Sometimes this Candida can also migrate into the internal organs and it will become a systemic infection. So Candida is a normal skin flora which is present on the surface of skin. So when the patient's immune system weakens, then the Candida will take the opportunity to cause an infection. So Candida primarily it will cause a vaginal infection among the women. Not only vaginal infection, Candida is also responsible for many other mucocutaneous and systemic infections in the severely immunocompromised patients. Okay, so now let us see the overview of this Candida. So the morphology of Candida. So Candida is a yeast-like fungi. Sometimes it will grow a pseudo-hyphal like structure called pseudo-hyphae. Okay. So presence of this pseudo-hyphae is a characteristic feature for identifying Candida species. And the yeast cells, sometimes we will see yeast cells and we can also see budding yeast cells with a diameter around 3 to 5 micrometers in diameter. Okay. So now I will add few more points here itself, student. This Candida will develop this pseudo-hyphae under certain conditions. Certain conditions like if you keep this Candida in a human serum, if you incubate the Candida yeast cell in a human serum at 37 °C, it will start developing a pseudo-hyphae. I'm not clear about the temperature, but at one particular temperature, it will start rising a pseudo-hyphae. Presence of this pseudo or growth of this pseudo-hyphae is the characteristic feature to identify Candida infection. Okay, and this particular test is called germ tube test. It is called germ tube test. With this germ tube test, we can able to differentiate the Candida species from other fungi. Okay, because all fungi resemble same. All fungi will be either in the yeast form or in the mold form. But so how to differentiate Candida from others? That can be done by this particular test called germ tube test. Okay, where we will purposefully incubate the yeast at a specific temperature, so the yeast will start growing a pseudo-hyphae. So within 2 hours, we will get development of this pseudo-hyphae. So after 2 hours, if we see any hyphal strands in the same sample, means that indicates it is a Candida infection. And also this germ tube test or the phenomenon of growing this pseudo-hyphae from the yeast cell is called as Reynolds phenomenon, because it is the scientist by the name of Reynolds who is observed this phenomenon. Okay, growth of this pseudo-hyphae under certain conditions. That is why this germ tube test is also called Reynolds phenomenon. Okay, this particular growth is called Reynolds phenomenon. So with this test, we can able to confirm whether the patient has Candida infection or not. Then coming to the species of Candida. So the Candida species, we have many species. Some few of them include Candida albicans, Candida stellatoidea, Candida tropicalis, Candida cursi. Then we have Candida gulielmondi, Candida parapsiosis, and okay. So there are some tongue twisting words. So at least try to remember 2 to 3 species. One most important species is Candida albicans. Candida albicans is the primary culprit for this Candida infection. Okay, almost 80 to 90 cases are Candida albicans infection. Then pathogenesis. So pathogenesis of Candida is whenever the patient immune system compromised, immediately the Candida will cause an endogenous infection. That means it will start destroying the patient inside out. Okay, so the infections caused by Candida include four important infections. One is mucocutaneous lesions, skin and nail infections, chronic mucocutaneous candidiasis, and systemic candidiasis. So it will cause mucosal infections, skin and nail infections, systemic infections, and chronic mucocutaneous infection that is seen especially in the AIDS patient. So first, let us see these mucocutaneous lesions. So the mucocutaneous lesions means these are lesions that will form on the mucous membranes of our body. That can be either in the mouth, around the genital area, in the eyes, or in the ears. So wherever there are mucosal membranes, there is a chance of getting this Candida infection. So few of these mucocutaneous lesions include oral thrush, which is development of Candida infection on the surface of tongue; vulvovaginitis, which is Candida infection around the vaginal cavity of the woman; balanitis, which is a Candida infection around the penis of the males; conjunctivitis, Candida infection around in the eyes; and keratitis, Candida infection to the cornea of the eye. So these are the few mucocutaneous lesions shown by the Candida species. So they include oral thrush, vulvovaginitis, balanitis, conjunctivitis, and keratitis. Okay. Then skin and nail infections. So the skin and nail infections include the skin under the axilla, groin, perineum, and submammary folds. There we can see this Candida infection. Nails will get Candida infection, and in the infants, it will cause a characteristic infection called napkin dermatitis. So napkin dermatitis is a skin infection to the just born baby. So this particular infection occurs in the children. So here you can see the scalding, you can see the skin has been peeling off from this poor little baby's hand. All right. So this particular infection is called napkin dermatitis, which is seen in the neonates. So then we have chronic mucocutaneous candidiasis. So this is how a chronic mucocutaneous candidiasis looks like. So this chronic mucocutaneous candidiasis is seen in HIV patients or severely immunodeficient patients. In them, we can see this chronic mucocutaneous candidiasis. Then systemic candidiasis. Systemic candidiasis means it will cause systemic infection in the body. It can cause urinary tract infection. It will cause a pulmonary infection. It can cause diarrhea, intestinal infection, and it can even cause brain infection and blood infection. So all these are the systemic candidiasis. Okay, so these are the complete diseases that are caused by the Candida fungi. A quick overview: it will cause mucocutaneous lesions, skin and nail infections, chronic mucocutaneous candidiasis, and systemic candidiasis. Right? Then coming to the lab diagnosis of Candida. So in the lab diagnosis, I think I need to split this lab diagnosis. I will show you the first diagram. My representation, where is it? So in the lab diagnosis, I will discuss about direct microscopy, culturing techniques, and special identification techniques. Okay. So direct microscopy you can done with the help of KOH preparation. So with the help of 10% KOH, you can able to identify budding yeast cells, and this pseudo hyphae containing cells can be observed in the direct microscopy. Whereas in the culture, when you're culturing the sample in the SDA culture, in that culture, you will identify few things like presence of chlamydia spores, and you can also go for specific identification tests like germ tube test and carbohydrate fermentation test. So with these three, you can able to identify the Candida infection. Now I will discuss those identifying tests. So I will show you the lab diagnosis of Candida. So coming to the direct microscopy, So in the KOH preparation, you can able to identify budding yeast cells and pseudohyphae. And also, if you perform gram staining, our Candida species will be gram positive in nature. So upon gram staining, you can able to see gram positive yeast cells in the slide. So that indicates a possibility of Candida infection to the patient. Then culturing. This culturing can be done in an ordinary SDA culture in the presence of blood agar. They can grow. They can grow at 25 to 37 degrees centigrade within 24 hours. They will form cream-colored smooth pasty colonies. Okay, so they will form cream-colored smooth pasty colonies on the surface on the SDA medium. Okay, so gram staining, upon gram staining the yeast cells, you will see gram positive yeast cells in the SDA media. Then specific identification tests include, the first one will be germ tube test. So the first test will be germ tube test. So as I said previously, so what we need to do is we need to take the fungal sample. You take a test tube, keep some 2 to 3 ml of human serum and keep the sample in the human serum and incubate this sample at 37 degrees centigrade for 2 hours. Within 2 hours, these yeast cells will start forming pseudohyphae. Presence of pseudohyphae after 2 hours at incubation of 37 degree for 2 hours results in formation of pseudohyphae, and that indicates positive for Candida infection. And this phenomenon is called Reynolds Broad phenomenon. Okay, so this germ tube test is also a specific test for identification of Candida, where we will inoculate this Candida species in a human serum and we will incubate it at 37 degrees centigrade for 2 hours. Within 2 hours, development of pseudohyphae indicates positive for the Candida species. This phenomenon is also called Reynolds Broad phenomenon. So this is called the germ tube test. Then chlamydia spores will be developed. If you grow this Candida species in a nutrient deficient medium, if you grow the Candida species in a nutrient deficient medium such as corneal agar media, at 20 degrees centigrade it will start showing chlamydia spores. Presence of chlamydia spores indicates positive for Candida. So this is second specific identifying test for identifying the Candida species. Then third one is, all Candida yeast cells have the tendency to ferment the carbohydrates. They can able to ferment the carbohydrates. Okay, so by carbohydrate assimilation test, we can able to identify the Candida species. Okay, this is especially used for identification of C. albicans. So C. albicans can able to ferment the carbohydrates. Okay, so this is how you can able to identify the Candida. So this is how the carbohydrate fermentation assimilation test looks like. So here after a few periods after incubation of this Candida, you can able to see diffuse of colonies into this agar due to fermentation of this glucose. So this fermentation indicates positive for growth of Candida species in the carbohydrate media. Okay, then serological test, I need not to say much about serological test. We have many antigen antibody tests to identify. So where we will either develop a specific antibody towards the surface of Candida, or we can also use antigens as a target to identify the antibodies present in the patient serum. So in either the case, you can able to identify these antigens or antibodies in the patient with serological test. Okay, such as CIEP. CIEP is the common serological test we will use. We already discussed this CIEP. Can anyone say the full form of CIEP? Types of antigen antibody reactions. We discussed this in the last semester. CIEP stands for counter immunoelectrophoresis. Full form of CIEP. Okay, counter immunoelectrophoresis. Yeah. So this counter immunoelectrophoresis can be used for identification of C. albicans. Okay, so this is the specific serological test you can use. Then antigen can be detected by ELISA test. Okay, so ELISA test is available for the detection of this antigen of the yeast cell. Then skin test. So there is a skin test called this skin test is mediated by cell-mediated immunity. So it shows universal positive and it is useful for indicator of intensity of cell. Actually, the skin test is not so or precise students, because every one of us has candida as a normal flora on our skin. So everyone will get positive for a skin test, but getting a very severe reaction in the skin test indicates patient has a severe infection. The greater the reaction, the greater the fungal load in the body. Okay, but say skin test is not so appropriate, not so good at candida identification, because obviously we will get positive in skin test since it is a skin normal flora. So this you cannot trust this test. Just for namesake, we can include here. Then treatment. The good thing about candida is we have a very effective drugs to control the candida infection. We have many tablets, many in the form of ointments, in the form of oral drugs, in the form of IV drips. We have many forms of drugs available for curing candida effectively in the patients. I'm telling in a healthy patients. How can I say healthy patients? Means the patients that can able to respond to the treatment. Okay, if the infection is too severe and patient's immune system is drastically compromised, means in such case we can't do anything. But if the patient is healthy and if he is responding to the treatment, means we have very good drugs to treat the candida infection. So few topical application. Topical application means these are the ointment simply that can be applied on the surface of skin. Such drugs are called topical application. So topical ointments include nystatin, imidazole, or miconazole, clotrimazole are effective for superficial infections. So usually for if you are getting any vaginal infections, then you can the pharmacist may recommend ointments. Usually in those ointments you will find these ingredients. In those ointments you can see nystatin, miconazole, or clotrimazole. Okay, so these are for topical application of the candida infection. Whereas we can also use oral drugs, and one of the effective oral drug is amphotericin B. So amphotericin B in association with fluorocysteine, cystosin can be used for killing this fungal infection. That is why in COVID infections recently, we have given this amphotericin tablets parallelly, because in the COVID patients already they are immunocompromised, and there is a chance of getting fungal infections. So parallelly, we have given antifungal drugs to the patients. So there will be a less chance of prone to fungal infections due to this ongoing lung infection in the COVID patients. So that is why we have given this amphotericin B and azithromycin. So we are controlling with the help of amphotericin B, we are controlling fungal infection, and we are giving azithromycin, which is an antibiotic. So for to be frankly speaking, for COVID patients, we are not giving tablets for curing COVID. Rather than we are giving tablets to eliminate possible bacterial or fungal infections to COVID patient. As you know, this is a new virus. We still didn't understood its complete metabolism. So we don't have an effective drugs. But the drugs which we have given, the drug one RNA drug. We are giving one RNA drug. I don't know what is it. Fabivir or something. I forgot the chemical name. That is a common RNA destroying drug. So that has been given to the COVID patients, but that is not a COVID specific. But the literature review has suggested that this particular RNA drug has helped to kill few of the COVID patients. So that is why we have included that as a drug of choice for COVID patients. Anyway, so this is how we managed the infection in the COVID patients. Okay, so and also amphotericin B and fluorocysteine, cystosin are very powerful antifungal agents. They can kill almost all types of fungal diseases. Okay, so this is the treatment for these drugs are the treatment of choice for treating Candida. I think this is all about Candida. I will do a quick revision on Candida and we can move on to the next fungi. So in Candida, we discussed about the following things. So Candida will cause skin infection. It can also cause nail, hair, and systemic infection. So among 80 to 90%, the infection is caused by a species called Candida albicans. So this Candida is a normal skin flora. which present in everyone, and it will cause infection only during when the immune system has been compromised. So the morphology of Candida, it can be either in the yeast form or in the filamentous form. Filamentous form is called pseudohyphae formation, and the yeast cell has a diameter around 3 to 5 micrometers, and that's it. And it also causes budding yeast cells during reproduction. We can see budding yeast cells here and there. Then species of Candida, for few species include C. albicans, C. stallotodius, C. tropicalis, and C. westonati. Pathogenesis occurs due to in the patients who has
బ్రాక్ ఎగ్జామ్ కంప్లీట్ అయిపోయింది బ్రాక్ రిజిస్ట్రేషన్
ఎస్ సార్ ఎవరున్నారో నాకు తెలియదు సార్ చూడాలి చేసుకున్నాను fine. So then the infections caused by Candida, we saw mucocutaneous lesions, skin and nail infection, chronic and systemic. Mucocutaneous include oral thrush, vulvar vaginitis, balanitis, conjunctivitis, and keratitis. Then we discussed about skin and nail infection. In the skin and nail infection, skin infection can occur in the axilla, groin, perineum, and submammary fluids. Then a nail infection can occur, and in the children or in the neonates, they will see a specialized Candida infection called napkin dermatitis. Then in the chronic mucocutaneous candidiasis is seen among the simply HIV patients. Then systemic candidiasis, where it will cause infection to the systemic organs such as urinary bladder, lungs, intestine, brain, even other organs of the body. Then coming to the lab diagnosis, in the direct microscopy, you can able to identify chlamydia spores, budding yeast cells, and pseudohyphae in the KOH. You can also see presence of pseudohyphae. Okay, then in the culture, you can culture it will grow very well in the SDA medium in the presence of blood. They can grow within 1 day. We will get the colonies. The colony will be cream colored, smooth and pasty colonies can be seen. Special identification tests for Candida include germ tube test, which is a specific test to identify the Candida species, where we will inoculate the Candida in a human serum and we will incubate it for at 37 degree centigrade for 2 hours. By this, we can able to see the growth of pseudohyphae. Presence of pseudohyphae indicates positive for the Candida infection. This particular phenomenon is also called as Reynolds Blot phenomenon. Then chlamydia spores can be developed when we are growing this fungi in a severely nutrient deficient medium. So if you are trying to grow this in a nutrient deficient medium, then you can see this chlamydia spores formation at 20 degrees centigrade. Then also our Candida albicans will get positive for carbohydrate fermentation. So this is another specific test to identify the Candida species. Serological test, you can use CIP counter immune electrophoresis to detect this Candida infection. You can also detect the antigen of the Candida with the help of ELISA test. Then there is a skin test to identify, which is a common indicator to identify the test, but not so significant. Then there are very good treatment drugs are available to treat this Candida that include topical applications and oral application. Oral taking drugs. Topical drugs include nystatin, imidazole, miconazole, and clostrimazole, which are very good for superficial infections or surface infections, whereas amphotericin B and fluorocystosin can be used for systemic infections of the Candida. So this is all about Candida. Any doubts in Candida, students? Do you need any clarifications? Candida is treatable. It is curable. It is not so serious until it becoming a fatal infection. Okay, fine. So now I'm moving forward to the
Sir, what we see in ordinary culture when we culture Candida albicans?
See, you just take a bit of your skin. Simply, you just take a swab of your skin and grow it on SDA, and you will get growth. That is Candida. Candida can be easily cultivable. We will get Candida growth very easily. Actually, Candida is a lab common contaminant. So yeah, so we need to be cautious. Candida can grow easily.
Sir,
Okay.
sir, you want to ask about colony morphology, sir?
Colony morphology.
Yes, sir. In blood culture, yes, sir.
That's it. The colony morphology, you will see this specific growth. So this is how the Candida colony looks like. Shahrukh, actually your voice is breaking.
Not.
Shahrukh, your voice broken. Can you say it again? I didn't understood. Say it again, Shahrukh. Or you can text here. Fine. Yes, yes, Shahrukh.
This colony we will see in IHD agar na. What about
Yes.
the blood agar, sir? Colony morphology of Candida species in blood agar, sir.
In blood agar, okay. Yeah, that I don't know. I need to check it. That I will keep the. I will show you that in the next seminar, next class. Okay. I will show you the colony appearance in blood agar next time. Okay. That I didn't include. I will next time. Okay. Then so that's it. That I will show you later. Okay. Then so this is all about Candida. So the next opportunistic fungal infection will be aspergillosis. Very dangerous, very severe. It is also an opportunistic fungi, but it can kill patients. See, student, there are 3 important organs in our body where we can die easily if we get infection to these 3 organs. Among them, highly prone organ is lungs. Lungs are indirectly lungs are in contact with atmosphere, outer environment. Whatever there in the environment, it can easily enter into lungs through the nasal tract. Even though there is mucus and hair fossils, every follicles, but still the pathogens can easily enter into the lungs. And your lungs are one of the delicate tissue in our body, very delicate tissue. So targeting lungs is a very simple thing for microbes. If your lungs get infected by anything, means obviously there will be deficit in the oxygen levels of your body, and the way we are surviving is because of oxygen metabolism. We are utilizing oxygen to metabolize the carbohydrates. So lungs plays a vital role. If your lungs get infection, it's game over. It will be really challenging to recover, and lung transplantation is also a toughest surgery. Lung tissue will easily die whenever we are removing it from the patient. So lung transplantation is not as easy as other organs. Even heart transplantation is easy compared to lung transplantation. Just imagine how tough the operation is. Lungs are very delicate. You cannot. That's not an easy thing to transplant a lung. So uh, one of the severe lung infection caused is by a fungus actually. So that is aspergillus. And the other problem with aspergillus is it is a common bread mold. That means this aspergillus present in almost all bread shops or even in your home right now. Why we are not getting infection? Because we are healthy. But if we have any immunocompromised condition, means definitely we will get this aspergillus infection to our lungs. And that is why if there are any HIV patients, means they need to be very cautious. They need to be maintain their health properly. They should not uh, play with their body actually. If they are smoking, they are literally damaging their lungs. If they are it's HIV patients need to be really cautious with this, because their immune system is already weakened in due to presence of HIV virus. So they need to be very cautious. Okay. So coming to this aspergillosis, so the infection caused by aspergillus fungi is called aspergillosis. So aspergillus is ubiquitous in nature. As I said, ubiquitous means it present everywhere. And aspergillus fumigatus is the main opportunistic pathogen. So there are many species in Aspergillus. There are importantly 3 species: Aspergillus fumigatus, Aspergillus flavus, and Aspergillus one more there. So these 3 Niger, Aspergillus niger, Aspergillus fumigatus, and Aspergillus. I said one more: Niger, fumigatus. There is one more species. Okay, so these are the important species of aspergillus. Okay, so they will cause respiratory disease. They can cause many forms of respiratory disease. The forms of respiratory disease include Aspergillus asthma. That means you will see patients with asthma, right? So that asthma occurred due to this Aspergillus. Okay, so it is a hypersensitivity reaction which occurred due to presence of Aspergillus fungi in the lungs. So that is Aspergillus asthma. Then second one is bronchopulmonary aspergillosis. Bronchopulmonary aspergillosis means they will block the bronchioles of the lung. They will block the bronchioles of the lung. So patient feel difficult to breathe. So that form of infection is called bronchopulmonary aspergillosis. Then in this bronchopulmonary aspergillosis, when the patient coughing, he will expectorate. That means he will cough out green colored substance, green colored fungal balls. So that is the identifying feature for bronchopulmonary aspergillosis. But don't get scared by this green color thing. In your normal cold you will get green. That is due to presence of white blood cells. The type of green splitting you will see in the aspergillosis infection is entirely different. It will be really thick green with the mold. You can feel the mold texture, the fungal texture in this expectorate. Okay, so mucus plug containing fungus containing mucus plug can be easily identifiable, which will be in the green color. Okay, that particular condition is called bronchopulmonary aspergillosis. Then third one is aspergilloma. Aspergilloma means it will literally form fungal balls in the lungs. These fungal balls will embed within the lung tissue, creating cavities. It will create empty cavities within the lung, and in those empty cavities you will see fungal balls. And this condition is called aspergilloma. I will show you the picture of aspergilloma. So this is how an aspergilloma looks like. It is a very severe form of aspergillus infection. So in a very severe form of aspergillus infection, you will see this aspergilloma in the lungs. Okay, where it will create cavities within the lung tissue and it will embed within these cavities, resulting in a severe lung failure conditions. So these are the three lung infections that will cause by aspergillosis. It will cause asthma, Aspergillus asthma. It will cause bronchopulmonary aspergillosis, where the aspergillus will block the bronchioles of the lung, and it will also cause aspergilloma, a condition where it will cause cavities and it will embed itself into the lung tissue. Then, so the important three species of aspergillus include A. favus, Aspergillus fumigatus, and Aspergillus niger. So this is the typical morphology of aspergillus and very important diagram. So this is how an actual fungi looks like. It is a common fungus present everywhere and it can cause lung infection. So this is the typical morphology of a aspergillus, where you will see septate hyphae, conidiophore, a vesicle, sterigmata, and conidia. So this is the structure of a aspergillus fungi. So upon culturing, we will get three types of colors. So we will take a loop of sample from we will take a sputum sample. We will keep in the SD agar. Then within 1 to 2 days, we will find growth of velvety powdery colonies. So we will see velvety colored colonies with different colors. We will see three colors in these colonies. We will see green, bluish green, and black. Okay, so green color colonies are occurred by Aspergillus fumigatus. Black colored colonies is occurred by Aspergillus niger, whereas Aspergillus favus will cause yellowish, golden yellow color colonies. So by seeing the color of the colony, we can able to identify the individual species of the Aspergillus. Okay, so identification depends upon the colony morphology. Then on lactophenol cotton blue, you can see the complete morphology of Aspergillus. I think I didn't kept the original picture here. I kept here. So this is the picture of a Aspergillus. So on lactophenol cotton blue, you will see the exact picture, whatever I shown in the diagram in the above. Okay, this is the Aspergillus fumigatus, and these are the three species. So this is the species of Aspergillus favus. So this is Aspergillus favus. Then this is Aspergillus niger, and this is Aspergillus fumigatus. So these are the three species of Aspergillus. Okay, so Yeah, this is all about opportunistic fungi. Then next is systemic mycosis. This I will discuss in tomorrow's lecture, and we can say goodbye to mycology. So tomorrow I will discuss about Cryptococcus neoforms, and we can finish mycology and we can start virology soon. Okay. So this is all about Aspergillus. Aspergillus will cause lung infection or respiratory infection. There are of three types: asthma, bronchopulmonary aspergillosis, and aspergilloma. And there are three species: Aspergillus niger, Aspergillus flavus, and Aspergillus fumigatus. The three depends upon the three depending upon the color. Aspergillus flavus will cause yellowish green color, whereas niger black color colonies, fumigatus bluish green color colonies. Okay, and the colony morphology will be like this: velvety powder colonies will be seen. Okay, velvety powder colonies will be seen on the ST agar. So, any doubts, students? Do you need any clarifications until now? If I go for systemic, it will be too much for you. That's why I'm waiting. Can I end this class? Is there any doubts in this today's lecture? I will do a quick revision and we can say goodbye. Okay. So in today's lecture, we discussed about Candida and we discussed about Aspergillus. So tell me, students, in the Candida, can anyone give any three mucocutaneous infection names? Any three mucocutaneous lesions caused by Candida? Can anyone say? Any three mucocutaneous lesions by Candida? Students, I'm asking a question. Can anyone say three mucocutaneous lesions caused by Candida? Names of three lesions caused by Candida infection. Am I audible?
Sir, oral thrush,
Oral
tendinitis,
thrush,
and conjunctivitis.
conjunctivitis. Very good. Then, what is germ tube test? What is germ tube test? What is germ tube test, students? Can anyone? I think happily sleeping since it's afternoon. So germ tube test is a specific test for identifying Candida species. Germ tube test is also called Reynolds blot phenomenon, where development of pseudo hyphae will happen. So these are the yeast cells, and here you can see growth of the hyphae-like structure, pseudo hyphae. So that presence indicates positive for this Candida species, where this can be achieved by inoculating the yeast cells in a human serum and incubating it at 37 degree for 2 hours. Within 2 hours, we will see development of this the growth of this pseudohyphae, and that is positive for the test. Or if you are incubating, if you are inoculating this in a nutrient deficient medium, then you will see chlamydia spores. Or you can also do a carbohydrate assimilation test, where you will see development of fermentation of carbohydrates, which is a positive for Candida species. And there are very good treatment is available. Drugs are available. One is topical application, other one is oral. Topical include nystatin, imidazole, clotrimazole, whereas oral drugs include amphotericin B and fluorocysteine, cystosine. So then we discussed about Aspergillus. Aspergillus is a lung infection where it will cause three types of lung infection: asthma, bronchopulmonary infection, and aspergilloma. Then there are three species: Favus, Fumigatus, and Niger. The three differences lies within the colony color and their morphology. This is the typical morphology of a Aspergillus species. Okay, upon LPCB, you can see the complete morphology of Aspergillus. So thank you very much, students. In tomorrow's lecture, we will see systemic mycosis, and we can start virology from next week onwards.
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, you can leave.
Thank you, sir.